destinations taking me on a journey full of anticipation. Everything AI and travel taking me higher.
Love it.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Everything AI in Travel podcast, brought to you by travelai.com. That's where you'll find all the episodes in their resources section on travelai.com. And today we've got one of the up-and-coming founders in AI and travel. Welcome to Mr. Connor Wilson. How are you going today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Really good to have you aboard. Now, your startup is in the travel planning space. And you've got a few notable things that have happened already. You've raised some money, which is always good. I noticed very recently you were in the top 3 finalists for startups in BC, which is pretty good. You've had some coverage in TechCrunch. But for people who don't know anything about Pilot or Pilot Plans, give us the overview of what it is that you guys are doing there.
So Pilot is basically building a collaborative travel hub. So you can think of this as one place for people to discover, plan, book, and share trips sort of all in one place. You know, I know you do a lot of talk about like travel planners and things like that. You made a post actually recently or comment on someone's post about travel planning startups. And I'll quote you. You said, "No one builds a travel organizer, a place where you can put all your research and have it resurface at the right moment, something arguably Gen AI is better at." That could be both a great consumer experience, but also a powerful B2B product. The reason I'm quoting that is because that is quite literally what we're building, or at least at the start it is. Like I mentioned, it's a travel hub, not a travel planner. And that is because travel planning is a big part of the whole process. But you know, what we're really trying to do is capture the user and provide value throughout the entire, process of traveling period, everything from discovery through, planning, booking, sharing, whatever, to actually attending and then after the fact.
Yeah.
And there's a lot you can do with that.
Is this like a post Gen AI idea, or was it something that you're already kind of working on and thinking about prior, or what's the evolution? What's the timeline that we're working on here?
Yeah. So the beta for the product actually released in Q1 of 2022. So it predates, sort of the big Gen AI wave, but it doesn't predate AI. We actually worked with a gentleman named Ajay Agrawal. He's one of the world leaders in AI. He's advised the US government on AI about essentially building an AI first product with a strategy around that. AI is just prediction technology. Technology is just cost savings. When you reduce the cost of something by making it better, so Gen AI is an example of this, you increase the demand for its complements. The complement to AI is data, judgment, and action. So our platform, it gathers data on the entire customer journey, everything from discovery through to attending, even if they don't book through us. And then, in addition to being a place where they can actually collate all their travel plans, we're building the ability to also, check out and book all those things and like have it more convenient when they, travel and take it with them. Bundling, like we're really trying to give people the value proposition of a travel agent without it coming from a travel agent. So it's not just travel planning, although that's obviously a huge part of what we're doing. That's what we started with the organizer side of things.
Yeah,
to build that consumer experience.
Good. Now, I dug a little bit into your backstory as well, and one of your early companies that you worked for was Sonder. What was that experience like, and what did you learn from there that you're kind of bringing through to your own startup?
Well, so to be clear, like I was a student in university when I worked at Sonder, so I wouldn't say that was like a huge thing. I was an early employee there, but I never got to work directly with like executives or anything like that. I basically managed properties and helped check guests in and get all the clean and everything. So I was very much on the operational side of things. But in spite of that, I obviously learned a lot about how those bookings are happening, what sort of good looks like. I would talk to all the guests when they came and ask why they booked this place. So it was a very, I don't know, yeah, it's weird. You're the first person who's asked me about that in quite literally like 10 years. But I also ran an event marketing company, an agency in university, kind of based on similar experience. And then I was running a review marketing software company after the fact. So you can think of it as like travel experience times like experience facilitation times like social proof and like marketing software kind of led to what we're doing now, which is of course this like very community driven, approach to building a travel app.
Yeah. And what about your personal relationship with travel? Like, is travel a big part of your life? Is it something that you
Yeah.
kind of grew up doing with your family? Or I actually know you're traveling now. You're in DC. You're not in at home in BC. But like, so tell us a little bit about your relationship with travel, the experience.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a digital nomad. Like I kind of hop all over the place. I do have an apartment in Vancouver. I'm not there very often, so I guess I'm not like a pure digital nomad. But I've been traveling my entire life. Like it was something my parents really instilled in us like very early. I'd been all over Europe. I've been to many places in like South America and Mexico. I was literally in I think 4 or 5 continents in 2023. Like we were in Bangkok and Taiwan and all this sort of stuff. So I've done a lot of like traveling myself. It's also why I know what a pain in the ass the actual travel industry is right now. Like 8 different clicks just to like book something. I find it ridiculous that it's essentially a $1 trillion industry, the online travel industry, but it's almost entirely marketplaces. There's no good like actual like consumer experiences out there. Like there's certainly some other startups like us that are trying to do that. We have some, I think you had Mind Trip on the other week. Like they're doing a different approach, but they're doing something as well. So it's nice to see like more of that stuff happening because for such a gigantic industry that's so consolidated among a few like marketplace players, there's like no good consumer experiences, and I've observed that. But I know part of your question is like, well, why did you want to do travel? Why are you doing this? I actually don't think of Pilot as a travel company. I think of Pilot as an experience company, and the reason I say that is because the idea for Pilot did not actually start with travel. It started with this idea that when you think of like social technology, you immediately think of like social media. But the initial promise of social media, which is to actually connect people, isn't what happens today. It's all about keeping people online. And so we wanted to build a company that helped facilitate real world experiences for people. And travel is really just doing cool stuff somewhere else. And so if you can help facilitate those experiences for people, then you're bringing people together in a really meaningful way in the real world. And that's the sort of social technology we want to build. And so that's why we treat our product like we're not a marketplace. We're not just a transactional thing. We're not just like a GPT generated PDF, which I don't think people want because they either enjoy travel planning or it's a really tedious and stressful experience for them. And a PDF they don't trust isn't going to solve that for them. They want this like tool that actually helps facilitate things with their friends and their family and the people they care about. And that's what we're building.
Very good. Now, when you are back in Vancouver, in British Columbia, it does seem like quite a vibrant area in the startup ecosystem, in the AI ecosystem. So our sponsors, Travel AI, I know that they're based out of that area. I think Grammarly, is from there. Seems like there's a really robust ecosystem. And I know that you do a lot yourself to kind of foster that ecosystem locally. Like, how does that play out in your efforts to build your own startup?
Yeah, I think Canada has a lot of potential to be a really good tech market. I think there's for the small population we have relative to like the States, we definitely punch above our weight. I would also say that the Canadian like tech and finance ecosystem is like woefully like bad for entrepreneurs besides like the amount of government funding we get from grants and things like that. People here invest very conservatively. They invest at much lower valuations, consistent with like Europe, for instance. The main reason to build in Canada is government grants and like relatively cheap because of the currency exchange rate, like labor. You can pay people well and it costs you less than doing the exact same in the States. We've done the majority of our fundraising and investor engagement and just like really network building, frankly, in the US because it's just much easier to do down there. They have a much higher tolerance for something like what we're building. Like if you can, let's take our product. If you can change the behavior of people, if you can give people a tool they actually prefer to plan their trips on, theoretically speaking, you can capture bookings downstream. So that is obviously a much higher risk bet than building like just another B2B SaaS company, which I've already done. So it's a higher risk, but also much higher reward because when you think about just again how consolidated the travel industry is, think about what it would be worth to be the tool that people use to plan trips and how much money you could make from adding value throughout those steps. Think the retention alone means that you can charge lower prices for bookings because your lifetime values are going to be higher. As an example, like there's just a lot of things there. Travelers are price sensitive and they have a trust problem. They need to solve the trust problem via brand and social proof and things like that. And they need to be able to see the bookings at the best price. And so if you don't have a business model that is going to do that, you don't have a business model. But I also
Yeah.
think it's a huge thing. And in Canada, they don't really, it's not great for that. But in the US, people really love what we're doing. And
And what
actually, people in
about,
Canada love what we're doing too. They just don't invest in it.
yeah, for sure. Well, and what about your hiring? Are you hiring locally or are you a fully remote company? How are you tackling that?
Yeah, I mean, so we're mostly Vancouver based. We do hire people remotely. Like for instance, as a travel company, people want to travel and we encourage that. We have some people in Ontario, a couple people in India. I'm in DC right now. People travel all the time. Like one of our staff was in Asia for 2 months, another one was in Europe for a couple months. And again, these are things we're encouraging because they're actively using the product while they're there. They're not taking a vacation unless that's part of the research.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
For sure. And one of the other things I've noticed that you do, and this is probably part of you being, a leader in your area with other
yeah,
startup founders, is you do build in public. So you publish a lot of
yeah,
stuff around, how the journey's going, etc. And one of the pieces I came across was your investor update, which actually people can subscribe to and receive even if they're not an investor. Like, what's your theory or thinking behind that?
yeah. There's a number of things. I think one, it's sort of a forcing function accountability wise for the team to know that like if we do well, people will know about it. And if we don't, they will also know that. So I think that's certainly been a factor. I also just think it's a part of reputation building. Like people see what we're doing. I think we're doing a lot of really interesting things. And I think the more people I expose to that, the more chances they're going to be interested in working with us, like investing in us, like working at us, partnering with us, whatever. And so far, that's been the case. Like I would say, doing an investor newsletter has been the single best thing I've done. I think all the money we've raised has been because of my investor newsletters. And building in public really is just a way to expose that to more people. I also really don't care about competitors because I don't think they matter. I don't think we matter to them. And the reason I say that is because I think you're competing against the incumbent behavior, not other new behavior, right? And again, most people today, they plan trips using like a Google Doc or a spreadsheet or like some sort of like itinerary flexible builder like that. And then they'll go on Expedia and Airbnb and Booking, whatever. And also like if you just think about competitors all the time, you're just going to build something exactly like them. And I don't think that's a good way to do business. So frankly, like there's been other travel planners and things like that that have actually gone funny in the space. That's good for all of us because it's more interest in the space. It's good. It means people changing their behavior. I encourage that. There was another company I reached out to recently. They raised some money. I won't share their name, but I reached out to the guy and just congratulated him. And I think that's a much better, maybe it's the Canadian me, but it's, what is it? The rising tide rises all boats, or whatever the phrase is.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
Now, I did see in your latest investor update that one of the things that
yeah,
you're potentially looking for, I don't know if you've solved this or yet not, but this might be a great opportunity to get it out there because there's probably someone out there who can help you solve it, was around your hotels. So you were using Kayak and you're looking for another solution. Maybe what is it that you're looking for?
well, so I don't want to bash Kayak because I think Kayak's a really excellent product. Like I love Kayak. We use Kayak's API for showing people hotels and listings in our application. It was never meant to be a permanent thing because Kayak is by definition an affiliate of an affiliate. And when we're an affiliate of Kayak, we're now an affiliate of an affiliate of an affiliate. So there's just not a lot of money in that, and then it wasn't really intended to be. It was just for us to like kind of figure out like what that UX flow is going to look like. It's still very much like in development. We're a small team, so we move as fast as we can, but we're still small. What we're doing now is we're just trying to essentially just cut down on the number of intermediaries. So we're going direct to hotels and partnering with them. And the easiest way to do that without having to go to like literally millions of hotels is a B2B hotel supplier. We've talked to a number of them. I've signed NDAs, so I'm not actually allowed to say who we've talked to, but it's the standard. You're probably already aware of them. Like it's all the big ones. And the whole thing there is just so we can do an in-app checkout, really. Because if you can do that, you can make a good user experience. I wouldn't say that's in itself like super innovative or anything. Like a checkout is not like the reason people are going to buy on Pilot is because they'll be able to get better deals that they wouldn't have been able to get elsewhere because of, for instance, bundling. And we spent all of 2023 working on our activation and retention rates, like making sure that when a user signs up, they're highly engaged. And I'm proud to say we have doubled the industry average activation and retention rates now, which means we know that when users book through us, assuming it's a good experience, that retention means higher lifetime values. Those values means we can offer better prices, and then bundling other things, the margins add up. So like that's how we're approaching that.
Yeah, and I think the taking that collaborative approach is a super smart way to do it because you're immediately starting with two people, not one, minimum two people, not one.
Yeah.
And of course, you need to invite your collaborators into the platform to be able
Well,
to activate
here's
it. So,
a here's an interesting thing on that. Like almost the overwhelming majority of people, I'd say it's like 80+% travel in a group. The problem is they don't actually think of it as a group. It's a group of two or more people. So that's couples, families, friends, etc. And yet, again, the entire travel industry, what's it built for? Single player experiences, right?
yeah,
And that's what we're really, trying to change.
I think that's an insightful problem to be going after and well put. Now, in terms of AI more generally,
Yeah,
or what you're seeing in AI in other travel companies, what is it that
sure.
you're liking out there, or what is it that excites you that you see might be coming through and might be useful for your business?
Yeah. I mean, I think the fundamental problem with AI in travel is everyone is talking about generative AI, and a lot fewer people are just talking about AI generally. Generative AI is one use case of AI. In fact, it's not even the most exciting use case of AI. It's literally like given the prediction problem for generative AI is given a text prompt, generate an output, which isn't even that exciting. Like there's a lot more you can do with AI. Netflix, for instance, is a great example of AI. They use collaborative filtering so that when you watch, let's say, I know this isn't on Netflix, but let's say Game of Thrones, they know that you're likely to be interested in House of the Dragon because other people who watch Game of Thrones watch that, right? So very, very simplistic version. But the point I'm trying to make is that AI can be used for lots of different things. It's just prediction. So where can you use prediction is the real question. I think that there's a fundamental trust problem with generative AI. When you just generate an itinerary for people, that actually isn't solving their problem. There's a reason people like when you do travel planning, you Google things to do in, let's say, Rome, you read an article, and then you keep reading articles. And the reason you keep reading articles isn't because the first article didn't give you that information. It's because you didn't trust information. You wanted to see which things kept coming up. You go on social media, you look at where things are going, you talk to your friends. There's a whole bunch of just like behavior there that happens, and it's all social. It's social proof. You're looking for trust, really. And we think we can solve that in a lot of ways. I think AI can be used to both syndicate, distribute, summarize, and essentially just access information for users. So for instance, I mentioned we're trying to build a value prop of a travel agent without coming from a travel agent. Well, how cool would it be is as you're building your trip, you can literally just like talk to your trip, just like an ad, which is literally what we're doing. I don't know if you ever used like Superhuman before. It's an email client. Great. So Control K, talk to your AI. Like that's kind of how we're building it. And so the way we've built the organizer and the way we've structured it is very much sort of like Notion-like in that it's simple, it's flexible, it's built that way so that when we build out that AI side of things, you can essentially select some sort of command and then issue your prompt, and it'll know what to do based on the logic, based on how it's built. So, for instance, reorganize day 3 or suggest things for day 4, like where did Joe go in Rome or like whatever, right? Like, and the reason I like the command prompt is it's also a global component. So anywhere in the app, you can use it. So you're great. You're in our Explore page, ask it a question about what you're looking at. You're in your trip, etc. You're on your profile, like anything. Generative AI is training data. That's essentially all it is. We can use it to show people things, which they can then pick from, which is outcome data. And all of that helps inform our prediction, which is what services, experiences, and products do travelers want and when. And that is a prediction we give anytime we're showing people things. And then, of course, the input data is all the stuff we learn about them. Sorry, that was a whole lot. The point is, there's
No,
lots you can do with AI, and it's not just Gen AI.
No,
Yeah.
that was a great answer, actually. And, I think our audience will really appreciate kind of looking inside your mind and seeing the way that you're looking at these problems and the solutions for them. Now, I know you've got 20,000+ people kind of in your beta already, but is this something that people can go and use right now, or is there some limitations on it? Like, what's the sign-up process?
Yeah.
How can people get involved?
Yeah, so I mentioned the platform is a platform to help people discover, plan, book, and share trips. We started with the planning component. So today it's a fairly simple travel organizer. You can start from scratch and just start building, or you can have like AI, like just Gen AI, literally just generate an initial itinerary for you. That is different from like these other like GPT type generators because we are recognizing in that flow that it is not the endpoint, it's a starting point. It's a set of ideas to help you get you started. We're building a lot upon that. We're building out the discovery and the booking side right now. But to answer your question on the just readiness, you can really just go to the website. That's pilotplans.com. Sign up. It's free. You can create an account very, very quickly, start making trips. The mobile app is very much in development. I would not say that's publicly ready yet, but it will be soon. So we're actively working on that.
Perfect.
And we're building out the booking and discovery side on the web app.
Fantastic, fantastic. And if people have liked what they've kind of heard from you today, or something's twigged in their mind, they want to get in contact with you personally, like what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
I would say just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm fairly active on LinkedIn, and unlike my email, my LinkedIn is actually managed by me, not my assistant. So that's probably the best way, to be honest.
Perfect. All right. So it's Connor J. Wilson on LinkedIn. I want to thank you for jumping on and telling us a little about your business today and finding out a little bit more about your background. And as I said, if anyone's heard anything they liked, feel free to reach out to Connor and let's keep the collaboration happening within the industry. Thanks very much for jumping on the show today. Really appreciate it, mate.
Great. Thank you.